Welcome back to Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. I'm your host, Kathy Baldwin. This podcast is about more than just conversations. It's about peeling back the layers of conditioned responses and automatic programming that we all carry. From the way we've been raised to cultural myths to the stories our bodies hold in our nervous system and our biochemistry. We are often running on outdated programs without even realizing it. But here's the truth: we are interrelated, interconnected beings. Your thoughts affect your emotions affect your body affects your energy. And all of that shapes the way you show up in your relationships, your work, and your life. Everything matters and everything affects everything. That's why I sit down each week with guests who have unlearned their own crap, the beliefs, the myths, or the patterns that held them back, and found new ways to live with more alignment, freedom, and power. Today's guest is Becca Goldsberry. I loved our conversation because she is so real. She talks about the hustle culture. We end up going into grit and the belief systems about how we are designed in this world. I know you're going to love this.
So, the very first question that I like to ask people is Unlearn the Crap is about the conditioned responses, the automatic programming that we come into this world with because of how our bodies are wired, because of the neurotransmitters and all of that, the biochemistry, the connection between our mind, our heart, our gut. All of that, the connections between universal laws and our emotions, and how all of that is our information in our GPS. And sometimes we have an outdated program, like a DOS program, and we're trying to operate in a smart world, and things don't work. So, Becca, what crap did you need to unlearn in order for you to level up?
Fantastic question. So for me is learning what I call gritty grace. And it was because when I was in first grade, and I always tell, people this story because I don't think people can relate until people hear this story. So I'm in first grade. It's 1984. So right, think Ghostbusters, Gremlins, right? Big hair bands, all of the things back then.
Oh,
And
yeah.
right, like, so everybody's picturing, like I said, it's January. I live, in Southern Indiana at the time, and I'm playing basketball outside with my friends, and we're having a good time. And then there was a girl that came up to me, and she started yelling at the top of her lungs, "Pudding pop." Remember the pudding pops that we used to have, the Jello pudding pops? I don't know if you guys
Oh, yeah. I'm a little bit older than you, so.
yeah, so Bill Cosby, I think, was the spokesperson at the time for Jello pudding pops back in the day in the
Oh, isn't
commercials.
that sad? We lost him as a hero. Oh,
Yes, yeah.
anyway.
So, anyways, so she was calling me pudding pop. And yes, I was, as a first grader, I was overweight. I was a little bigger as a kid. And friends were, people were laughing. She was in third grade at the time. I'm in first grade, and she's this very thin girl, and she did that all the way up until basically she left. And when she graduated eighth grade, I was what, sixth grade. So for 6 years, anytime I would see her down the halls or in recess, she kept calling me pudding pop. And so I remember
Oh,
it
sorry.
hurt, right? It hurt. I knew, growing up, it destroyed my self-confidence, right? Because, I tried out for cheerleading one year, like in for sixth grade, and I was so self-conscious trying out to be a cheerleader because all my other friends were trying out. And I just knew that along the way, that had literally destroyed my self-confidence. Just because I was bigger than everybody else, I didn't feel I was enough. And that behavior continued through, of course, junior high and, of course, high school and college. And it was to the point where I was trying to do my best in everything, to be everything, to compensate because I was overweight. And so it wasn't until I started working for Southwestern Consulting as a sales and leadership coach and really digging into myself. So I even went and got my master's in social work because I wanted to work in psychology because I knew it might be a good way for me to be better. Like I was trying to self-diagnose myself because I wasn't enough, right? So, and I know my mom and dad always got flack for that from, like my grandparents and different things because they wanted me to be healthy. All the childhood just stuff, just crap, right? And so it wasn't until I was really digging in and coaching clients here at Southwestern Consulting, and I've been doing that for 12 years, where I learned gritty grace. Where, man, over the years, because of not feeling enough, trying to be the best, right? I developed a ton of grit. I'm very gritty and very resilient, and I will keep going. I may not hit a goal, but I will keep going until I do. But over the last, I've been married to my husband 9 years. On December 31st, it'll be 9 years that we've been married, and he has helped me learn grace. My mom has helped me learn grace, um, and so I've been able to, one, forgive myself, but two, without that forgiveness of myself, man, can't we just dig big freaking holes, right? And self-confidence. So to me, that's the crap. And just feeling, I think so many people don't feel enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where and I hear from a lot of my clients, that's where the deterioration of sometimes self-confidence comes into play, and maybe where our emotional intelligence isn't quite where we want it to be because there's still something nagging at us, and most people can't figure out what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just not feeling like we're good enough at some area or some aspect of our life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I am so sorry that you had to be traumatized at such a vulnerable age.
Mhm.
And you're right, it's crap that our brains wire into our ability to stay safe.
Mhm.
I had a similar experience. I had what I thought was an idyllic childhood. I
Yep.
mean, I was the center of my grandfather's world. I was the center of my friends. We had a gang, we called ourselves, and all the gang hung out at my place, and everything was wonderful. I had friends, I had family. Everything was just really wonderful. But my parents wanted to upgrade their life. And so they sold that house and moved across town to what they thought was a better neighborhood to get me into a better quality school. And it was in grade 8. So I don't know, how old are you in grade 8? 12, 13?
Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And it was halfway through grade 8. So I was leaving my cocoon and my safety and going into this new strange school in the middle of the school year. And the cool girls, I'll never forget her name. I won't say it out loud,
Yep.
but she looked at me and she said, "Slut."
Oh,
And So she got all the other girls to start calling me a slut. And I'm like, what? I just arrived here. Like, you don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
Where am I? I've been transported into this world. And that reputation went all the way through high school, where boys were treating me so badly because this label had been attached to me. And so I was always an outsider, and I had these huge traumas that really played out in my life because of this. You don't want to look too sexy, but sexy is the only thing that drew men
Right.
to me. And then there were all these traumas that happened with abandonment, because if you felt like you were safe and you got close to somebody, then they rejected you because they got what their expectations were. It just turned into this whole cascade of a mess. And
Mm,
these things are just moments in time that come at us from other people,
that's right.
but they change who we are.
Massively.
Yeah.
Words have more power than I think almost anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to be very cautious because I have a 6-year-old son now. And so my thought, like, what do we say? How do we say it? Because it affects children. Because I guess I was 7. So he's only a year away from the year that literally my self-esteem took a plunge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
But the beauty is you had self-awareness to
mm,
look at that and realize that it was crap, because self-awareness, in my opinion, is where our power comes from, because we get to look at it and decide, does this have any value? Is this true? Even if it was true in that moment, is it true today? Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to say, because if anybody knows anything about EQ, I think you're right. Self awareness is where it all has to start. Because without self awareness, you can't be socially aware. You can't control. There's no self management or social management at that point. Like, it all has to start with you and just being really real and honest
Yeah.
with you. And I will, part of my journey, in 2011, I took action to my own hands, and I did have bariatric surgery and literally changed my life and health and all for the good things. But that was part of my social awareness walk, right? Is okay, how can I help myself feel better about myself emotionally, mentally, physically, all of the things. And then, my faith, is another big key to that too. And just saying, no, I'm enough. Yeah, I'm pretty darn amazing. But a lot of people, that self awareness takes decades, if you know, to even
If
figure
ever.
out. Just, yeah, if ever, right? I mean, so if you feel, I always tell people, if you feel empty or you feel like something's missing, maybe a good self-reflection weekend away from everybody, everything, unplug from social media, unplug from everything. Just go be with yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when I'm working with my clients, I always use the universal laws. And one of my absolute favorite laws, well, the law of relativity, the law of perspective, but the other is the law of polarity.
Mm,
And so I truly believe that our zone of genius, our gift that the world is waiting for, and that we came here, our purpose, our reason for being, is the polar opposite of our core wound and our challenges and our struggles. And so when we look at our core wounds and we feed into it, or we don't look at it and we allow it to run on automatic programming, however it plays out for each person,
Yeah.
what it's doing is taking away from our zone of genius.
Mm.
And for me, I look at it in an equation of 100%. So if the core wound is running at 80%, then our zone of genius only has 20% left.
Yeah.
And so when we balance that out through self-reflection, self-awareness, self-healing, self-education, self-empowerment, all of these amazing self-resilience, all of these things. So how did you tip the scales for you so that you could step into that zone of genius? How did you take away that power that was eating away at your soul?
No, it's work. It's a lot of work, but I really did that when I created a purpose statement, a mission statement, and a vision statement for my life. And so I will share my purpose statement because people are like, you know, how to gain your confidence, right? How are you so purposeful in the work that you do? And it's because of my purpose statement. And it takes time. But it's funny that you mentioned, right? There's that balance between the two because my purpose statement literally corrects the trauma. So my purpose statement is this.
Ooh.
So my purpose statement is use my gifts and talents from God to be a catalyst, helping others live out their God-given potential in life, helping them develop grit, resilience, and grace, empowering others to realize they are enough and have everything they need to be the best version of themselves.
Yes, yes, yes,
That's my
yes.
purpose statement.
And that is directly related to your core wound. It wasn't.
Absolutely.
So your gift could not be discovered without
Yeah.
that core wound showing up through the balance of contrast. And so many times we believe that there's something wrong with us because we have this core wound or we have this opposite. Instead of, it requires the contrast to showcase that spotlight on our core gift, our zone of genius.
100%. If I didn't go through what I went through growing up, and trust me, I had a wonderful family, supportive, loving, caring, nurturing. My mom was always so good at trying to build me up and all the things, but there was still Mr. Mediocrity sitting on my shoulders, telling me all the negatives all the time, right? Just helping me fill my head with crap. But it wasn't until, but I will say that wound developed my grittiness. It developed my resilience. It developed tough skin. And in the world that I as a social worker and a family therapist, right? You got to have tough skin, you know, in that. And then in the world of sales, how to have tough skin and be able to get no's and get, saying, I don't want to work with you, right? And all of these things. And then as a coach, being able to help others build their grace, resilience, and help them
Yeah.
find their purpose. If I didn't go through that, I would not, it would be hard to be able to work with some of my clients. And it's funny, I some clients that I am blessed to work with, I'm like, it's a total, I'm of Christian faith, and it's a total God, like how he matched me with my clients. I'm like, okay, they needed to hear what I've gone through of some sort and help them go through their process as well.
Our internet connection, and you froze as soon as you said, if you hadn't have gone through that. Could you repeat that sentence, please?
Yeah. So if I hadn't gone through what I went through growing up, it would be very difficult for me to help my clients go through similar challenges. As a Christian, God has just aligned me with some of the most amazing people And because of what I've went through, I've been able to help them go through their crap and get on the other side of that as well. So it's one of the reasons why I love what I do.
Oh, love, 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 love what you're saying. So you said something earlier that I know you just touched on,
Mhm.
but it was so important. I really want to come back to it.
Okay.
You said you were able to forgive yourself.
Mm.
What did you need to forgive yourself for?
I needed to forgive myself because again, if I think about the false narratives that Mr. Mediocrity had been playing in my mind, I had to forgive myself for not being, 5'11" and 115 pounds, 120 pounds, right? Like I had to forgive
Oh,
myself not fitting in the cultural norm of what everybody thinks everybody should look like. I had to forgive myself for thinking I wasn't enough and I wasn't worth it. Those were the two big things I had to forgive myself for. Not believing, I had to forgive myself for not believing in myself as much early on, especially in junior high. I went to a boarding Lutheran high school, St. Paul's Lutheran High School in Concordia, Missouri. Um, and it was really there that I developed my personality, like my true personality, like who I truly am. My friends I developed, our teachers, the dorm moms, all of those things. Like I had to heal. I had to really heal for 4 years and learn more about myself, who I truly am, be that confident, funny girl who, you know, loves, to have a good time and it's okay just to be myself. That too, that's what I had to forgive the most. But it took those 4 years of high school to do that. And then when I got to college, I was just like, all right, let's just flourish. Like, let's just own who I am at that point. Yeah.
I am so in awe of the fact that you came to this awareness so young.
It wasn't
That
it wasn't easy.
was there a pivotal moment that triggered that?
I think so. And one of those moments, and maybe it's a series of moments. What I call her my big sis. She's Gloria is her name, and she's wonderful. And she was basically the recruitment person there at the school. And it's basically her whole family is family by love. And I just remember at one point sitting in Gloria's office after school one day. Um, because I was about to head to track practice and I was sitting in her office and she's like, "What's on your mind?" And I was, just sharing, my thoughts and how I was feeling for the day. And she goes, "God's got great plans for you. You know that, don't you? You're perfect just the way you are. You realize that, don't you?" And of course, I know my mom has said that growing up all the time, but I think it took somebody else other than my mom for it to click going, "Oh my, okay."
Wow.
And so, you know, um, it- just Gloria being a mentor of mine, and then my mother, because I know her, Gloria and my mom are very good friends. I know they've had conversations, so my mom would back it up, right? So Gloria would be talking about these things, and when I would go home for break, mom would back it up, and it took 4 years of really just unpacking all of the things, you
Wow.
know, but it's hard work. It doesn't come overnight. It's not a one and done conversation that you have with yourself. There's truly hard work into doing that.
Yeah. I love the fact that you just talked about something that I feel is so, so important in this world, and that is having a mentor or mentors.
Yes.
Because we used to come from a community where we were in community and people supported each other and people knew each other, and you had the elder who could be there to guide you. And we developed a society that kept us very isolated, very disconnected, very competitive against each other, where you becoming vulnerable and allowing somebody's guidance was actually seen as a weakness. And so we were told that's part of the societal crap that I'm working really hard to get rid of. And so is this mentor that you had, this sister,
Yeah.
why you do what you do?
I think she plays a part of that. Absolutely. Gloria had a massive impact in my world, and she still does to this day. Her and my mom, I would say, were my biggest mentors and still are. And my mom's amazing. And so I always wanted to be the mom that she was for me. So I want to be that for Thad. Because my mom also has a very gritty grace story in her world too, multiple stories actually. And so I just like, okay, if my mom could do what she's done through her life, I could totally do this too. So my mom, my and Gloria were two of my big mentors. And then I've got some amazing friends who are also colleagues of mine that I consider massive, not just my best friends, um, but mentored as well. So, and they still do. So even still to this day, you know, I always believe, everybody needs two types of people in life. Everybody needs a coach and everybody needs a therapist, right? Um, so, and I've got great people surrounding me to be able to do that, because if not, life just becomes unbalanced, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So that is how you unlearned your crap. That was the past, and that what shined the light, shone the light, whatever,
Shone the
whatever the
light,
word is,
yeah, something, yes.
on your zone of genius and brings you to a place. So, what does leveling up mean for you?
Mm,
What? Because I believe we're spiraling, and you do not arrive.
no, that,
That spiral staircase, when you hit one peak, now you're gonna hit those core wounds again, and you're going to have to face it and go a little bit deeper so that you can go to the next level.
something that I am always baffled about, when I talk with people about, enrolling in coaching and stuff, and they're like, I don't need a coach. Life is great already. And I'm like, how do you want to get to the next level? How do you want to take it up a notch? Right. And there are people who don't, and that's okay, because coaching, a coach is not for everybody. But I'm like, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
Because your spouses can't do it for you. They can be your support system. Your bosses, people are like, oh, I get coaching from my bosses. Okay, great. But it's not the same thing, right?
Yeah, because
Like,
your boss is coaching you for what's best in their best interest, how to
bingo.
get the most out of you for them and their agenda. It's not about you and your agenda and your purpose and your vision and your mission.
You're right. Absolutely. And it's breaking that mold. So for me, my next step, because I have a couple coaches in my world, like for me, right? Because I need somebody on the outside to help me see, you're filling your head up with crap again, Becca. Stop it. Like, right? So for me, the next level is I'm working on one, solidifying my keynote. And I will be in the process here in the next year or two writing my book based off of Gritty Grace. And so for me, that's my next big, because I want to share my story, because I know other people are out there who have gone through similar things. And I've always just had this feeling, I think I'm probably saying probably since 2010 in my heart, to write a book, to be able to help others to do the same thing. before I even started working for Southwestern Consulting. So now as I'm developing techniques and skill sets and keep learning more about myself and developing my road path for Goody Grace, that's my next level up is I want to be able to help more people strive and to level up. That to me, that's my calling, right? Is like I said in my purpose statement, right? Is that's me just helping more people, to develop grit and resilience and grace and empowering them that they are enough. That's my next level of leveling up, whether it's helping them enroll in coaching or reading the book or being impacted by my keynote, being able to help somebody turn a point like that, that's life changing. Like, and if I can be maybe a first domino in their effect, totally life saving, my calling, that's my next level up.
I love it. What for me, I had a dark night of the soul. I had a rock bottom. I had a stripped of everything that I had. I lost everything and had to rebuild. And so for me, that's when I discovered that I could bring these tools that you would do for a business, creating a mission statement and values and all of these things that you would create for a business. I applied it to myself in my life. And that was the first time that I ever thought about or learned or had the concept that I could create myself just like I could create a business. So let me share with you my mission statement.
Love it.
Which is born into the name of my company. My company's name is 4X Win. And it means that everything I do must have a 4X win, a win for me. The very first person on my list is me. No longer am I accepting crumbs. No longer am I putting the responsibility for my needs and my wants and my desires on other people to give me what I need. I claim it and I own it, and I'm stepping into my power and my authority, and I'm giving from my excess instead of constantly draining myself. The second win is a win for you, the other person I'm connecting with. That it must be, we need to get away from a win-loss world where someone is losing. Instead, we all need to win. The third is who we are in community and connection with, our clients, our referral partners, our friends, our family, that outer circle. That if we're sacrificing any one of those areas of our life, then we're taking away from the first one, which is ourself. And the fourth is a collective win. And when we are in a collective win, we take the lessons we've learned and we reach back and we help the next person. And that's what you just talked about. You just talked about, you took your step, you took your journey, and instead of selfishly holding on to it, you're reaching out for the collective and saying, I got you. I got you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being a part of that collective journey that we're all on together.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are, for sure.
Wow. So, the other thing that you mentioned earlier, I want to circle back to.
Okay.
And that was that your husband taught you grace. That grit came from the resilience of what you went through. But what does grace mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Grace for me is forgiveness, right? In the midst of everything, grace is allowing myself to be myself, right? It's allowing anything from my past not to drag me down anymore. And so grace for me is just utter forgiveness. Because if we don't not just forgive others, but if we can't forgive ourselves, how can we move forward? You can't. So for me, grace is forgiveness.
Wow. I think we have the same concepts, but my word is acceptance and alignment.
Yeah. So if you spelled out gritty, right? There's 6 key words in gritty. It's grace, resilience, integrity, thankfulness, transformative. And the Y one was hard, but it was yielding.
Ooh,
Nobody
yielding goes right along with receiving, doesn't it?
It does. So
Ah,
yielding to accept others' love for you. A lot of times we give, but we also have to reciprocate, right? We also need to be loved and felt heard. So yielding is gathering all the goodness as well.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Can I take that spiritual emotional concept that you just brought up and bring in one of the things I love to do is bridge that spiritual, emotional, energetic into the physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
The feminine part of every human being, the feminine aspect, is about receiving. And it is in that receiving, if we think about the sexual act between a man and a woman, the woman is the receiver. And when she receives the gift of a man's seed, she creates. And so you can't create if you're not open to receive.
Mm, yeah, so true. So true. And how many times do we block off receiving because we don't feel we're enough or we're not worthy of?
But we're blocking creation then.
That's correct. That's correct.
And that becomes selfish.
Doesn't it though? In
Yeah.
so many different ways. So my husband, because he was the one that it was basically, from high school up until I met my husband. So what is that? 20 years. I was chipping away at it. But then when I met my husband, he basically blew the doors open because I received loved, right? Felt acceptance because of who I am, and he loved me no matter what. My faults, my failures, the good, the bad, the ugly. So, yeah, so he was the one who broke it in and saying, "All right, I can totally forgive myself because I'm not perfect, and that's okay. Nobody is."
Are you okay if I take this to a societal issue that we're having right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, good. There's that meme going around about women preferring to be in the forest with a bear rather than a man.
Yes, I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah, and it is about the fact that and I believe in the universal laws that everything must go to an extreme in order for it to circle back. And I believe that we are in that time. God, I hope it is really close that the extreme hits and we can start swinging back.
Yeah.
But this whole your body, my choice, this power, this control, all of these things, it shields women, puts them behind walls. They no longer feel safe. They no longer are able to receive. But it also, in my opinion, blocks, and I want to know your thoughts on this, it blocks the man's ability to provide that security, that safety, that foundation, that rock. These things that men and the masculine feel so strong because it's attached to the masculine part of us, that solid foundation, the rock, I got your back, all of these things that can't happen if a woman's not safe enough to receive?
I would agree 100%. And I'll share a little bit why I think that way. When my husband and I were first dating, he wasn't he goes, he goes, I'm intimidated by you, right? He goes, because you're independent, you're confident, you know who you are. He's like, and you just do what you need to do. And he goes, and you do things so well. He's like, what do you need me for?
Ah,
Right? So these are the conversations that, as we're doing premarital counseling and all of those things, I'm like, I need you to pick me up when I fall. I need you for security. I need you for your love. I need you for your acceptance. I need you, right? For to be the man of the household. Yes, I'm confident and I'm independent and, Tiger, hear me roar, right? But I also need you because you're going to also help me be my backbone. And I
yeah,
think that's where so many things, as a family therapist, I saw, because I did a divorce group. When there's not if your husband is not a backbone or your partner's not a backbone in your relationship, things crumble, right? And so I totally agree with you. So they need to be the support
yeah,
for not just you, but also for your household, for your kids, as well. Because
yeah,
when they don't feel like they're that for the family or for their partner, their wife, their spouse, okay, now we're digging into their confidence as in that role too. So,
yeah.
yep,
And regardless if we are talking same sex, opposite sex,
that's right.
whatever, we
Absolutely
all have a masculine and we all have a feminine. And
correct.
our center rides on one end of that. And
Mhm.
those polarities connect. And when a woman is living, if she is aligned naturally in the feminine, but she's having to live in a world of masculinity because the masculine isn't in her world. Because if a man who, and I know it's so confusing in this time and age where men have been taught to stifle their emotions. They've been taught big boys don't cry, but yet now we want you to be softer. We want you to be connected. And it's so confusing, right? What is
Yeah,
power? What is control? What is dominance? What is support? I mean, we have to have these conversations, but it requires a man to know the value and strength that a house needs a foundation, that you
yeah,
cannot build on top of it. You cannot create without a foundation.
love it. You nailed it. Yep. And when that foundation is not there, it crumbles.
Yeah,
You can't build if there's not a strong foundation.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So to me, communication is where it's at.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
having these conversations that bring up our core wounds and shine the light on the value of it, that it is not that it needs to be hidden.
No.
It's information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to say, you can turn that information into transformation with gritty.
100%, right? Um, I did there's, uh, how do I even want to, it's called That's What She Said Project. And so this group of amazing women here in the Midwest have, every year, there's like, I think 20 cities they do this around here in the Midwest, where 10 women every year get to basically do like a 8 to 10 minute TEDx. And mine was on my gritty grace. And so as I was developing that and I did mine in September of 2023, when I was developing that, and I would rehearse it and practice it with my husband, sharing my gritty grace story and my childhood and how I developed grit and resilience and all, and gave myself grace. There would be nights where he would just cry. because and crying as I get you, I understand you, I'm proud of you, right? Crying of he knows my story, right? He knows that point in time where it hurt the most and how I became the woman I am today. And if our spouses, our partners don't know those things, do they really know the true us? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, because then you're living in the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting to the intimacy where the true transformation happens.
Correct.
Yeah, you're just putting lipstick on something.
Right. We're just putting lipstick on a pig, as my grandma would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the United States. I'm in Canada. We're in a massive paradigm shift that is happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see our biggest struggles? And where do you see our biggest opportunities? Because the way I look at the individual is that we live in a universal law of polarity, and that our zone of genius has the polar opposite in our challenges, in the things that show up as our triggers, our greatest pain points are always opposite. Right. And so I'd love to have the opportunity to get from your perspective where you see that in our communities and in our world, and where you would like to see us focus our attention.
Such a good question. You're right. It's a loaded question. I guess I'm going to go from a mother's perspective.
Ooh,
So let's look at this kind of as a mom of a 6-year-old little boy who is the apple of my eye, and Michael and I love him to death. What we've seen, and I guess I can even attest to personally, is social media and the things that because of my social work, because of my master's in social work and doing family therapy, working with divorced families, working with domestic violence shelters in the past, family therapy, what I have seen shifted from, let's say, 2000 to today. I think a lot of it stems, actually, I don't think, I know a lot stems from social media. And it's the boundaries of family culture. I think there is a lot of things that are not going so well as a family unit for a lot of families. And I think cell phones, iPads, tablets, video games, I think has a central component to it. My mom and I were just having this conversation. I was born in 78. The biggest thing we had technology wise was Oregon Trail on like the first Mac computers, right? Or the very first Nintendos. We weren't constantly stuck in social media comparing, or even my son, we've got YouTube Kids. We have to watch what videos pop up in his little feeds, because some of the things that these kids create, these videos, these families are creating, may not be the morals and values and the lessons we want our son to learn. So I think as a family, the lack of communication, the focusing just on everybody eating dinner and focusing here instead of communicating has really taken effect on our culture so much.
Yeah, I love the way you say that, because I was born in 1965, and every single dinner we sat at the table, and the table had placemats, and the candle was lit. And it was expected that it didn't matter if we were having grilled cheese and soup. We sat with the candle lit. We had a conversation and we stayed around the table. I
Mhm.
have a beautiful dining room suite with actual reclining chairs. I bought these really expensive, stressless reclining chairs so that at the end of the meal, we could sit down and relax and push back and, have a conversation. Like that was
Right.
my image. I have to dust it more than I use it.
Mhm.
We've
Yep.
gotten away from the dining room table. We've gotten away. That is probably why meeting you and having this conversation has lit me up so much, is because we don't have these conversations
No, we really
on a
don't.
regular basis.
No. And even back then, you can see culture shift. Parents working later. You know, I was born, I played sports right growing up and stuff, right? But it's even more so now for families from the time school ends until 8 o'clock when it's time to go get a shower and get the kids to bed. They are running around in activities, which is fine to a certain extent. I think, you know, um, people eating out every night. And I just think there's just so much. And, I'm human. We're all human. There are times that Michael and I, we may eat dinner on the couch, and just kind of let Thad play like on the table next to us or something, right? Because we all kind of do it. But it's a lack of communication and really just listening. And um, I've made it a point the last 6 months really to kind of turn the TV off in the evenings and just let Thad play. He loves building like those rubber band bracelets right now, which is great because I like watching him like use his hands and skills. And he's, big into Legos and different things, and it's having him turn off the tablet and do something more constructive where it can help him build his mind. And it's good for us, as adults too. And, my husband's always down on the floor, building with Lincoln logs. And he got some Lincoln logs recently for our birthday. And just get away from social media, get away from the screen time. And
Yeah.
I think if we can shift that just a little bit for each of our kids, they're going to have a better future because I really think social media, too much TV, there's just so much negative. Somehow we need to rebuild the positive back into the kids.
Yeah. And into the adults.
Right?
We've
Because
all,
then that will have a domino effect.
yeah, we've gotten weary. We've gotten
Yes.
tired as a society. We've
Mhm.
gotten overloaded and decision fatigue. I mean, even what do you want to eat for dinner? What do you want to watch on TV? I mean, even these things that are supposed to be our mind numbing, we're just overloaded.
100%. 100%. And it's funny that you say that. Have you seen those Gen X funny reels like on Facebook or Instagram? They're like, "Hi, I'm a Gen X," right? And they kind of go through us Gen Xers traits and personalities versus, the millennials or the younger generation, which I laugh. They're like, "Hi, I'm a Gen X," and my parents didn't care how long we played outside as long as we were in the door, by the time it was 8 o'clock. Or, "Hi, I'm Gen
No,
X."
by the street lights.
Street lights. See, I grew up in the
Street.
country, so I grew up in the country. We didn't have street lights. We had to move as
Well,
our life.
you're not a Gen X though.
Yes, I am. Actually, 79 is the last of Gen X.
Okay, well, I'm the first, so
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I know, right? I am the last of the Gen X. And so I just think it's funny because a lot of us Gen X, we're in the 40s, 50s, early 60s now, and it's interesting how we maybe have raised our kids or are raising our kids, um, because maybe our parents raised us differently. I'm thinking to myself, how did our generation veer off completely different than how the baby boomers raised us, or how my grandparents the great generation completely raised the baby boomers. Like how did this evolution of raising kids completely go from one extreme to the next? Just very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I was on this documentary that I was a part of. Anyways, they were talking about how in the last 100 years, that 100 years ago, horse and buggy were the main transportation. We now have self-driving cars. When we think about the speed of change that we have gone through, previous generations were long blocks of time. Now they are like 20 years. Everything is speeding up so much faster. And that's a paradigm shift that I'm talking about, that the speed of change and the rate of how it's happening, futurists are predicting that we are going to see 100 years of change in the next 10 years.
I can see that. I could see that very easily. And some of it I think is going to be very good for us. I think some
That's
of
up
it.
to us, isn't it?
That's correct. That's right. And then I think maybe it could not be good for us. It all depends on maybe how we utilize these new tools and these new technologies.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
I think
that
it comes
that's
back
the
to
importance of these conversations. Yes.
right. So it comes back to how are we raised, like the values, the morals, right versus wrong. I think it comes back to so many of those things a lot, really. And, do we use these things for good or not so good?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a
And
lot of
that's, yeah, that is my, and I know yours as well. We've talked about this earlier in our conversation, that the decision is it empowering or is it disempowering?
that's
Period.
right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it was tradition or if it's the way we've always done it or our beliefs or our traumas. I mean, none of it matters. It just comes down to, is it working or is it not working? Are you
Hmm.
getting what we need and want, or are we not?
Absolutely. Choice is ours.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important that we fill our basket with good quality choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If not, where's that lead us?
Yeah. Becca, this has been an amazing conversation. So, for those people who've loved this conversation and they're looking at you and they want to level up and they want to get the best version of themselves into the next stage of their life, how do they reach out to you?
Best way to reach out to me is a couple of ways. You can look at for me on Instagram and message me there at Becca Goldsberry SWC, or you can hop on to my website, which is Becca Goldsberry SWC.com.
Perfect. I'll include the links, of course.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything that you want to make sure that you leave this conversation with?
I just highly recommend everybody to remember you are enough. Please give yourself grace. I was talking with my coach earlier today and giving myself grace for things that maybe I didn't accomplish that I want to, but remember, always have your goals, never change the goal, but you can change the timeline and the time frame that you can hit those goals, but never change the goal.
Unless it's no longer serving you.
Good point. Very good.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I can't wait for our next conversation, but you
Yes.
have been an absolute joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
If this hit home, don't just listen, level up. Subscribe to the show. Drop me a 5-star review or share it with someone who's done playing small. Then head over to my website, kathybaldwin.me, That's where the real magic happens. You'll find my books, my podcast, and all the tools to help you reclaim your voice, rewrite your patterns, and level up into the version of you that you have been waiting for. Your soul isn't whispering anymore, it's roaring. And this is just the beginning.